여러분, 안녕하세요. Okay, so whilst I've been in London, I've just been reminiscing on my time in Korea and just the past few years. Some of you may not know, but I was working as an English teacher in Korea, and I just remembered my first day and the feelings, and I wanted to share the story with you guys. I mean, some of you may be coming to Korea to do the same thing, maybe as a teacher or just working in a Korean company or just going to Korea to do some exchange. And it was really exciting. I just remembered like all the feelings, and just going to share the story with you lovely people. It was the 2nd of March 2016, and I remember trying to look my best that day, like pencil skirt, you know, my Sunday best, and just to make a good impression. And didn't want to be late. I'm always late, can I just say. The previous day, one of my co-workers had told me where to meet her, and she mapped out the route. But then that day I just couldn't remember, and everything just seemed like a blur because it was the first time I'd ever walked on that street. And so I was just walking and trying to like remember everything, and suddenly I saw this road that I recognized. I was like, oh, right, okay. So went there, and luckily I wasn't late. And so she met me, and you know, we were driving in the car, and her English wasn't really good, so I could tell she was a bit nervous. So I tried to, you know, speak a bit of Korean, and at that time my Korean was not great because it was just the start of my language journey. And yeah, so anyway, we drove to school. It was really cold. I just remember it being so cold, and my mum had told me to pack this jacket, which I was like, no mum, I don't need it, it's like a mountaineering jacket. She was like, take it. So I was so happy that I took it because I wore it that day all day. Yeah, so I got to school, and yeah, I remember they were like, oh, you have to take off your shoes. I was like, what? It's freezing, you want me to walk on these bare floors with my foot? They were like, yeah, it's like school rules. I was like, okay. So they gave me this like oversized slipper that I had to wear, and my feet was cold because I was wearing tights, so I didn't have any socks or any extra padding on my feet. So I was there with my puffer jacket and my slippers, just scurrying along behind. And so I got to the teacher's office, and they made me sat down. They were like, oh, cha, tea. I was like, oh no, sorry, I don't drink tea. They were like, what? You don't drink tea? Because I guess I'm British. Yes, I don't drink tea. I'm one of the rare breeds that are British and do not drink tea. Yeah, so I was like, no. I kind of felt rude. I should have just said yes and not drank it. But it's fine. Yeah, and then one of the teachers came, and he was actually pretty good at speaking English. So I was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. Someone who speaks English. Yeah, and he was asking me where I'm from, and he was like, yeah, he lived abroad as well. Just really like a nice chat. First English conversation at the school. Yeah, and so that day I met one of the head teacher and the vice principal, and they were just greeting me, and yeah, everyone was really lovely. And then yeah, they kind of explained to me that I'm going to be in 3 schools. So there was my Korean surprise. I was like, 3 schools, what? They were like, yeah. I can tell they were a bit nervous to tell me because I did not know anything. On my contract, it just gave me 1 school. So anyhow, ni hao. So waited a few minutes and a few hours, and they had the opening ceremony at that school. So they made me come and line up with the new teachers, and all the kids were there. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was so nervous. I couldn't even like breathe, and I was so cold as well. My feet were freezing. So, you know, they made some announcements, and all the children were singing the Korean national anthem, and yeah, it was so sweet. And then they called all the new teachers on stage, which being me. So I went on stage, and all the teachers were like greeting them in Korean and saying like all the Korean greetings. And then it got to me. I was like, oh my gosh, should I speak English? Should I speak Korean? So I tried to be like cool and do a bit of both. So I got on stage. I was like, 여러분, 안녕하세요. No, what did I say? 여러분, 안녕하세요. 저는 스테파니입니다. 영국 사람이에요. I was like, hello everyone, my name is Stephanie and I'm from England. So I kind of tried to mix both. It was so funny. And everyone was just like silent. Like, and then, yes. And then the next teacher came. It was so funny. But I did get a round of applause, but whilst I was speaking, it was just so silent. Like, you could hear crickets in the background. Yeah, and then that was that, and yeah, closing of that opening ceremony. So the principal drove me to the next school. So whilst we were in the car, like, the principal, who's a male, his English is not great, but he was really trying. He was like asking me all these questions, and yeah, and then I could tell he hadn't spoken English for a long time and he just wanted to practice with me. But yeah, I'm always up for that. And yeah, so we got to the next school. Now this next school was in the most remote place ever. Can I tell you, it was surrounded by mountains. Now look, I'm a city girl, so I'm used to skyscrapers and tall buildings, and you know, this was like mountains and trees and land. And we got to this road where there was like no bus stops, just nothing, just this long road. We're driving. I was like, am I actually supposed to get to this place one day by myself? So I got to that school now, and it was the tiniest school. It was really cute. There was like a farm in the background, and you could hear like chickens going cock-a-doo-doo-doo. Don't know if chickens do that, but yeah, it was a picturesque school and very rural, let me just say. Yeah, so I got in there now, took my shoes off again, wore my slippers. Now I was quite used to it. And then walked into the staff room, greeted all the teachers. Now the teachers there were a lot more like brighter and, you know, excited, and yeah, I got a good vibe from them. So it put me at ease a lot more. And I feel like I had done this before, so I kind of knew the routine. They asked me for tea and I was like, oh yes please, thank you. Yeah, so got to the assembly now for that school, and all the kids were there, and so they made me sit in one corner, and as I was sat down, there was this kid like stroking my legs. It was a girl, by the way. She was like stroking my leg, and then I think her mum was like, oh, stop it, and then she just was like, no, and she just kept pulling at my tights. I never forgot that kid till this day. She's the sweetest thing ever. And yeah, so she was stroking my leg. I was like, talk about icebreakers. It was so cute. And then yeah, so they called all the new teachers up again, and this time I just spoke in Korean again. So I was like, 안녕하세요. 저는 스테파니입니다. 영국 사람이에요. 잘 부탁드립니다. And everyone was like, what? I got a better reception from that school. They were so like excited that I could speak English, and that I could speak Korean. It was so funny. Yeah, so I felt like really like, yeah, those 8 months of Korean lessons went down well. It was so nice. Yeah, so after that, went back to the other school again, and I didn't get to go to the third school that day. I'm not sure why, but yeah, they told me that all the teachers will be going for dinner, like right after school. So I was like, oh, sounds nice, at least I get to meet everyone. Yeah, so, you know, day went on, and it was the end of the day, and I got a lift to the restaurant. Now, I don't know why, but we went to a sushi restaurant. It was like sashimi actually, so like raw fish. So we got there, I could smell the fumes of a raw fish. As we got there, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't eat raw fish. That's just, I don't eat anything raw. And so we all sat down. It was a nice restaurant. This old lady, right, came out with this huge slab of raw fish. She just rolled out her trolley, got her 2 giant knives, was like chopping all the fish. Like the blood was just oozing. My eyes were just like, I felt so sick. I couldn't even stomach what she was doing. And then the waiter came with like this huge platter of raw fish. The selection looked very colourful. It was really nice, but when I see raw fish, I just cannot deal. So now they put it in front, and my face was like, oh my gosh. I saw a fish that I recognised, which was salmon, so I got my chopsticks, stretched my arms to the salmon, and then I ate it. It was so raw. I think the teachers saw my face, and one of the teachers was like, oh, do you want chicken? I was like, yes please. And then they all laughed, and they were like, oh, you don't like fish? I was like, no. And so everyone was there eating their fish, and there I was with my chicken, you know. it was tasty too. Yeah, and then one of the teachers came. They tried to offer me like some alcohol. I was like, oh no, sorry, I don't drink. They were like, oh, do you want cider? Like in this country, cider is alcohol. It's kind of like a different kind of beer. So I was like, oh no. And then they were like, oh no, it's like soft drink. I was like, oh, cider, okay. So they gave me it, and then I drank, and I was like, this is Sprite. But in Korea, they call Sprite cider, which I found really interesting. Kind of tastes a bit better, which I like. Yeah, so yeah, that was that. And we were all eating, and then they made all the new teachers stand up again, and they presented us with these beautiful flowers. I remember posting on Instagram how happy I was. I think I put the post here maybe. I don't know. It's there. Yeah, I was like so happy, and they were like all clapping and welcoming us, and yeah, it just felt really calming because that day, I mean, it's my first day. I was full of nerves, and I just didn't recognize anyone, wasn't familiar with anything. I kind of felt like a fish out of water, and it was really nice how they all just welcomed me. So I was sat with the female teachers during that dinner, and they were all talking. We were just kind of getting to know each other, and I felt more closer to them because it was kind of more intimate. Like the male teachers were just drinking, like, yeah, you know, being men, and the women were just like in one corner, like, you know, calmly talking and chatting. I felt like I was with my friends. Like these women were just so lovely, and they all spoke English. Not very well, but one of the teachers actually did speak very well, and I'm actually really close with her now. And yeah, her English was lovely, and yeah, they were asking me how I felt and like what it's like in England, and we're kind of like swapping cultures, and yeah, they were really kind. And at that point I could say that yes, I could see myself surviving there for a year.